When the US military-industrial giants are still worrying about the high cost of next-generation weapons systems, a startup company founded only 3 years ago claimed to be able to build a disruptive cruise missiles in 14 weeks. But why is its heart from Taobao, China? This seemingly absurd reality not only rips open the gorgeous veneer of the US military-industrial complex, but also exposes the eye-opening and bizarre picture of the global industrial chain reorganization wave. On March 5, 2025, a promotional video released by Mach Industries on social media caused a furor. Sharp-eyed military enthusiasts were able to pinpoint the engine's power core as the SW800 Pro turbojet engine manufactured by Zhongyuan in Baoding, Hebei, China. Through the shape of the engine's air intake and welded seam features, this price of 128,000 yuan. Taobao can be shipped directly from the civilian products, but became the US Army laboratory, strategic strike, cruise bomb program key components. What is more ironic is that this is packaged as independent innovation of the weapons system. Its development goal is to confront China in the Western Pacific region. This use of Chinese technology to manufacture weapons against China's black humor, so that US netizens jokingly called this the most sincere Sino-US technology cooperation. In fact, this dual-use technology penetration has long been not an isolated case. Russia's Haiyan nuclear-powered cruise missiles using high-temperature resistant alloys from a private enterprise in China's Shandong province. The Ukrainian battlefield of Turkey's TB2 UAV relies on Canada's L3 Harris optoelectronic systems, while the system's infrared sensor actually comes from China's Wuhan Gouda Infrared. The company, founded by 21-year-old MIT dropout Ethan Thornton, is an anomaly in the military-industrial world. With no industry history and no mass-produced products, the company received a $79 million capital injection from Sequoia Capital, based on the concept of a hydrogen energy weapon, and signed a research and development contract with the US Army laboratory. This rocket-like speed, people cannot help but think of the US military history of the famous revolving door. Former Defense Department official John Mitchell has disclosed that the Pentagon every year at least $30 billion in funding into the relationship enterprises. This deformed ecosystem has become more and more obvious after the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Between 2022-2024, the number of US defense startups tripled. 63% of the founders have a Silicon Valley background, but no military experience. When SW800 Pro's Taobao links were contrasted with Mach Industries government contracts, American netizens chortled. So taxpayer money has been turned into shopping coupons for Chinese companies. What is more interesting is that the official website of Xuan Yun Power shows that its overseas sales in 2024 increased by 470%, of which 65% of the customers are labeled as aerospace research institutions. Behind this farce, reflecting the depth of China's manufacturing industry to the global military system penetration, SW800 Pro is a civilian model engine, thrust-to-weight ratio of 5:1, life 100 hours of technical indicators, cannot be compared with military-grade products, but its 300-500 km/h speed is sufficient to meet the needs of the verification aircraft. There are precedents for this civilian-to-military phenomenon. Russian Lancet patrol bombs using Chinese infrared sensors. Iranian Witness 129 unmanned aircraft assembled with a German civilian engine. And even the US Army's F-35 fighters rely on Chinese samarium cobalt alloy magnets. The penetration of Chinese manufacturing is not only reflected in the hardware. The open-source flight control system of Shenzhen's DJI drones has been adapted for use in the homemade weapons systems of at least 12 countries. Just like the story of Liaoyang's steel pipes transformed into rockets in the Middle East, Chinese civilian industrial goods are writing a new arms saga in global conflicts. A report by the Center for New Security Studies, a US think tank, shows that 83% of unmanufactured weapons found in global conflict zones in 2024 contain Chinese-made civilian standard parts. The US military-industrial system is in far more trouble than that. In order to implement the concept of affordable war, the US military in recent years to support low-cost consumable weapons, but this is the Chinesization of the political correctness of a violent conflict. Mach Industries' choice highlights this contradiction. If the US Teledyne CAE engine, the cost will skyrocket to $100,000. The research and development cycle is extended by several months, while the Chinese engine is not only the price of only 1/5 more through the e-commerce platform for instant procurement. Behind this pragmatic choice is the cruel industrial reality. China occupies 30.2% of the global manufacturing value added, ranked first in the world in the production of 217 industrial products, from cotton staple to aviation piston machine. The U.S. military supply chain has long been deeply dependent on Chinese manufacturing. The U.S. Defense Logistics Agency's secret 2024 report admits that 38% of its critical materials list can only be obtained from China as an alternative source, including rare earth permanent magnets for missile gyroscopes, munitions-grade nitrocellulose, and even high-strength fibers for parachutes. More ironic is that when the Trump administration shouted, "Manufacturing back the United States from China's imports of small aircraft engines," but the number of 18-fold surge in 3 years. This mouth off the hook, the body honest paradox in the early days of SpaceX, using car parts to build rockets, General Atomics with Austrian engines to test fly the Predator drone history has been foreshadowed. U.S. Army Artemis moon landing program of 3D printing parts from a private enterprise in Hangzhou. The Navy Ghost Fleet unmanned boat communication module is actually Shenzhen Hezhou Cat.1 Internet of Things terminal modification. The Pentagon was forced to start the Clean Supply Chain program in 2025 after the removal of 139 Chinese suppliers, resulting in the Javelin missile production delayed by 26 months. Patriot missile costs soared 210% just as the U.S. military was photographed using Chinese-made equipment during disaster relief in Turkey, and its robot dog project relies on components from Shenzhen-based Unitree Go1. The modern military industry has long been unable to escape the globalized supply chain. Japan's Ministry of Defense 2024 test of island defense drones, its carbon fiber body actually purchased from a fishing tackle manufacturer in Weihai. How will this engine fiasco end? The U.S. International Traffic in Arms Regulations, (ITAR), may force Mach Industries to switch to indigenous engines for mass production, but supply chain scrutiny will come at the cost of soaring costs and schedule delays. More interesting is that China's private enterprise products through the e-commerce platform, quietly changing the shape of the war, when 128,000 yuan Taobao goods become the core of the U.S. military strategic weapons, which means that the industrial strength of the generation gap has broken through the boundaries of the traditional perception. Perhaps as a netizen jokingly said, before is touching the U.S. Army across the river, now is the U.S. Army touching Taobao across the river. The real horror of China's manufacturing is that the threshold of military science and technology lowered to the level of e-commerce shopping carts. Dongguan, a CNC machine tool enterprise, launched the military-grade 5-axis machine tool, only 238 million yuan. The price is 1/7 of similar products in Germany. Henan, a chemical plant nitrocellulose production line. A slight adjustment can be converted to ammunition propellant production. This military in the civilian, industrial ecology is reshaping the global military balance. In this manufacturing war without smoke, the farce of Mach Industries is but a microcosm of the transfer of industrial power in the era of globalization. When the U.S. Congress for whether to ban Chinese parts debate, the Ukrainian frontline soldiers are using Taobao to buy laser rangefinders to correct the coordinates of the shelling. When the European Union to discuss the key raw materials bill, the Polish militia organizations have been used to sell through the purchase of FPV traversing machine-modified anti-armor weapons. The real victories and defeats have long been written in the electronic markets of Huaqiangbei, in Shenzhen, and the small commodity city of Yiwu in Zhejiang province, where the millions of packages sent out every day harbor the most profound military revolution of the post-Cold War era. A recent projection by the U.S. Center for Strategic and International Studies shows that by 2030, technological spillovers from China's private sector could equip 60% of the world's irregular armed forces with paramilitary-level strike capabilities. This may explain why the Pentagon began to study the Yiwu Christmas light string shipment data, those twinkling LED light beads, slightly modified as the cheapest cruise missile navigation signal source.